Hi everyone, and today I'm going to be teaching you all about wrist mobility. My name is Yasmin Say. I'm founder and owner of Say Fitness Personal Training based in West London. If you enjoy this video, please, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, let's get started. So in this 15-minute video, I'm going to be taking you through several exercises to help with wrist mobility, as well as also give you some stretches to utilize for your wrists and also to help strengthen your grip strength. So this might be useful for exercises, for example, like calisthenics, if you do calisthenics in your training, or body weight training, but also for weight training, Olympic lifting, or lifting any weights for that matter, if you do that in the gym. This video is also useful for those of you that have maybe suffered from wrist issues in the past. Now, that could be anything ranging from wrist weakness through to issues like Carpal Tunnel Syndrome, which affects the median nerve of the wrist and where pain can really be painful and travel up through the arm, or things like early onset of arthritis, or perhaps even repetitive strain injury. And I think with modern society and the sedentary lifestyle and the way that we use our hands with our laptops or screen time or even our phones, our wrists can take quite a beating. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to be taking you first of all through some wrist warm-up exercises, then moving into more mobility work, and then finally finishing off with my favorite stretches for the wrists. So let's get started. I'm going to stay in this kneeling position or in a seated position as long as you're comfortable, and we're just going to warm up the wrist a little bit and also all the finger joints. So what I like to do is what I call my jazz hands, is I start to flicker the hands open and close them quite quickly here. Just to get, you can already start to feel the finger joints warm up and the wrists warm up as well. And then you're going to send those arms up. A lot of what we'll do today will also warm up the shoulders as well, particularly if you do any sort of training like yoga or calisthenics. You know the importance of the shoulders as well. Bringing them out to the side, flickering them, and then bring them out in front. For another 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1, shaking them out. And then from here, we're going to create fists with our hands, and we're just going to rotate the wrists round. And then we're going to get the elbows involved. And then we're going to get the shoulders involved. So you can be quite fluid with this exercise. And it's good to get all the joints, the relevant joints involved in the arm. And then we're going to go around the opposite direction. And then we'll get the elbows involved. And if any of these stretches or these exercises or these mobility exercises work particularly well for your body and you feel that they're what you need, then please repeat several times over. So maybe you want to start with 2 to 3 sets to start off with, and then shake it out. Brilliant. So we're going to start with one of the most basic but essential wrist mobility exercises that you can do, and they are called wrist CARs. CARs stand for controlled articular rotations. So we're working with the wrist joint here, making sure that it works efficiently through its full range of movement. So I will touch on that a little bit later on, but for now we're going to work with our right wrist to start off with. I'm going to pull my elbow into the side of my waist, making sure that no other movement is happening in the rest of the arm itself apart from in the wrist. I'm going to clasp just my forearm to make sure that my arm does not move apart from the wrist, and I'm going to keep my palm flat here. Now, I'm tucking my thumb in as well, and I'm going to move my wrist through a basic circle. I'm going to internally rotate first, then I'm going to lower the hand all the way down and around as I externally rotate and then bring it back to center. Now, it might seem simple enough, and you're probably wondering, well, what's exactly working here? So what we're trying to do is not only create that circle without the rest of the arm moving, and I'm making sure of that by also working on my breathing, and I'm trapping any movement here with my left hand, but also I'm trying to keep that palm completely flat. Once I do maybe 3 in one direction, I'm going to change direction. The tendency is 2 things to happen, is to start clawing my hands, almost called the dinosaur claw, or I see too much movement in the forearm happening. So I'm really trying to pull my wrist through that 360-degree circle without those 2 things happening. It is a lot harder than it looks. And usually when you have done that on the other side, you notice one side is slightly different to the other. Usually your dominant hand might be slightly different, might not have the same mobility as your other hand. So do practice that every day. You can do that even sitting on the bus or on the tube. It's a very, very simple but very effective mobility exercise for your wrists. So those are your wrist cars. Now we're going to move down into the mat now. And we're going to do a little bit of wrist extension work. Now, wrist extension you will use a lot in calisthenics and bodyweight training, but also in yoga as well. And if you think about where our sort of general active range of movement, which is what we really want to be working on. So in your range of movement, we usually work a lot when we're stretching more in our passive range, which is pretty good, right? If you look at my wrist extension here, that's a pretty good passive range. However, if I let go, that is my active range of movement. So if I actually went further than that too often, and I wasn't prepared neurologically to go further than that range of movement, I could very much get injured. So what we want to prepare our nervous system with is the idea that when we do go into our more active range of movement, that we have control over that range and that we are safe in that range too, so we won't get injured. So to practice this, more passive work first, you're going to bring the heels of the palms together here, splaying those fingers out, and then you're just going to rock gently from side to side. So you'll feel this nice little stretch here in your wrist extension. And if this doesn't feel good, first of all, never ever push to the point of pain. And if this range for you or this position is uncomfortable, then bring the hands slightly further apart. I really encourage you to utilize the finger pads and really grip into the floor. So we're not dumping into the joints like this. This is where we start to utilize the shoulders as well. So a light sort of lifting away from the mat is encouraged. So you stay strong and stable in the shoulders too. And then from here, you can bring the fingers in towards the body in your all fours position here and start to rock gently forwards and backwards. Again, don't worry about your range initially. If you don't do these types of exercises regularly, then it might be a very new thing for the body to try. So work up to it slowly. But if you are doing calisthenics or weightlifting or lifting weights generally, and you want to work on your wrist mobility and your grip strength, then I would encourage you to do this daily, these types of exercises daily. And then calming back up. Now, to work into your active range of movement, what I would recommend that you do is you're going to sit back on your heels here and then bring your fingertips back towards your feet. Now, you want to press down into the heels of the palms so they're not going to lift, but you are going to lift your fingers all the way down to the heels of your palms off the mat and then lower. And then lift and then lower. So if I show you from the side here, you're going to be lifting and then lowering. And they might not even lift a millimeter. And that's fine to start off with, but you'll feel the work needed here, as well as also understanding the level of strength you need in your forearm extensors as well. So to actively get into that position for press-ups or exercises like planche or any kind of yoga pose, for example, you want to be able to be comfortable in that wrist extension when you come into those positions, okay? So you are not essentially risking any injuries. Now, from here, we're going to work a little bit more on our wrist flexors. So I want you to turn the backs of the hands onto the mat here and turn the fingers in towards one another. Now, this is a little bit more intense, and you will feel the intensity of this stretch very, very quickly. And I want you to try and keep the arms as straight as you can. They might start off like this, but just over time, again, as long as you practice, you're training your nervous system that you are safe in this position. And that's the important thing here. So just holding this position for about 30 seconds or so. And again, you can do 3 sets of 30 seconds. And then after that, you can add on curling the fingers in and then release. So you're creating fists and then you release. So again, we're just working all the muscles in those wrists, all the joints here, even working into those finger joints as well. And let's just do a couple more. And then last one. And then shake it out. Feel free to take rest whenever you need to, because these are quite wristy and quite intense. So from here, guys, you're going to come back onto all fours, and I want you to start lifting up onto the fingers, fully onto the fingers, not onto the fingertips, and then down. Lifting up onto the fingers, and then down. Lifting up, and then down. 2 more like this. And then last one. Excellent. And if you want to take this wrist flexion a little bit further, you can add little mini press-ups here. So in this all fours position, you're going to lower down and then press up. You're going to lower down and then press up. So of course, I would recommend that you are on a soft surface for this. So you would have maybe quite a padded mat here is really important. Let's just go for 2 more here. And then last one, and then releasing it there, shaking it off. Well done, everyone. So coming onto all fours here, so in your quadruped position, shoulders stacked over the wrists, hips over the knees. So this is usually the alignment that you want to be in, for example, in exercises in yoga. Obviously, if you're in a plank position, when you extend the legs back, your shoulders are stacked over the wrists. So as you can see, the shoulders take a lot of the pressure and the weight as much as your wrists do. So it's important you utilize the wrists to the best of your ability. So I often find that when people actually come into an all fours position, they sort of dump into their joints and they're not utilizing their finger pans and their hands more effectively. So spread those fingers out, really like a spider web almost, and utilize those finger pads so you feel like you're gripping into the mat or into the floor, so that, referring back to the carpal tunnel syndrome, you're not placing so much pressure on that median nerve. In fact, utilize the outskirts of the palm more efficiently here. I often, like a yoga teacher often said to me and described a really good way of not placing so much pressure on the middle of the palm by imagining there's a small butterfly underneath the middle of your palm, so you're not putting pressure to that area. So you utilize the finger pads a little bit more. And you want to feel a slight sort of lifting away from the mat. So as we come into these little circles here, I want you to feel like you're utilizing the whole of the hand here to grip into the ground. And then change direction. Again, imagining that little butterfly is underneath your palm here, and you don't want to crush it. And feel that strength and stability through the shoulder girdle as well. And then coming back to center. Finally, before we get into the stretches, I'm just going to show you another one to use to really activate all the muscles and tendons in your wrists and in your fingers here. So you're just going to create fists on the ground, and then you're going to spread the hands out in turn. So you're going to come up onto those fists and then spread down and spread down. Fist, fist, spread down and spread down. Fist, fist, spread, spread. And you've got two more like that. And then last one. And then down. Coming into my two favorite stretches for the wrist. They're very, very simple to do. And again, you can do them anywhere because wherever you go, your wrists go with you, right? So first one is for your wrist extension. So placing your hands together in a prayer position. And I want you to make sure those hands are pressed together, shoulders away from the ears. And without those hands splaying, you're going to bring that prayer down as far as it can go until you feel the stretch. And for me, that's about there. And again, I'll hold this anywhere between 30 seconds and a minute here. Keep pressing the hands against one another. It's a wonderful stretch for the fingers as well. Breathing, most importantly, of course. So this would be very good to do at the end of your session, whatever training session you have just done. And then shaking it off. And then, of course, we go on the reverse. So the backs of the hands together. This time, instead of bringing the hands down, you're going to bring the elbows down. So you're pressing the backs of the hands together and pulling those elbows down and feeling that lovely wrist flexion stretch here. And again, breathe. Keep pulling those elbows down. And just hold for another 30 seconds, for a minute. However it feels good to do so. And another way you can do those, if those don't feel comfortable for you, obviously then avoid them. But then you can come into the more standard sort of wrist stretches here where you're pulling back. Again, it's more of a passive stretch, but still a worthy stretch to do. Or you can pull back as well into that wrist flexion stretch. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it was useful. If you do have any questions, then please pop a comment below. And I look forward to seeing you on the mat soon.